welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a talking video, as you can tell from the title. It's going to be all about phlebotomy. I got a request from somebody to talk about phlebotomy, basically, like how much do we get paid, what are my working hours, you know, just general questions about phlebotomy. So I went ahead and thought about, like, you know, the top 10 questions that I would have if I had no idea what phlebotomy was and what the job is. So I came up with 10 questions, and this might be out of order, but these are just the questions that I thought of off the top of my head. And I don't know why I'm nervous, but there are some questions that I'm not really comfortable answering straight up. So I'm just gonna give you guys like a general idea, and I actually kind of like Googled it too, like what is the average, because I live in Hawaii. Okay, number one, what is the pay? I'm not gonna tell you how much I get paid right now, because obviously it's kind of a personal question, and it's not something people like to share, especially because a lot of people that I know might watch this video, and it's like, I don't want everybody knowing my business. I Googled it, and the average in Hawaii is annually $35,220. I want to say this is pretty accurate. It does vary also on where you work. For example, to be a phlebotomist, you typically work in, you know, like a lab or doctor's office. You can also work at the blood bank or a hospital. So it really depends on where you work. I want to say hospitals pay a little bit more just because there is differential. For example, if you work during the day, there's a base rate. And then if you work evening shift, there's like an additional $1. If you work night shift, that means like overnight, then there's like additional almost $3. So that's one thing that can affect how much you get paid. Another question is, what is phlebotomy? So basically phlebotomy is drawing blood. So that's what I do. I draw blood. If you work at an outpatient laboratory, typically you get the paper requisition from the patient, you accession it on the computer. So basically you put in all the information, the tests that the doctor ordered, you know, copies to other doctors if the patient has more than one doctor, insurance information, just all that stuff. You draw their blood, and then you know, the patient leaves, you take their blood, you spin it down in the centrifuge, and then you ship it out to the central lab. So if you work at a hospital, it's a little bit different. You're working with inpatients, therefore you have stat draws, you have time draws, and then you have routine draws. So when you work at a hospital, well, I worked at 2 different hospitals. It's the same hospital with different location. So when I used to work at this one location, I only drew blood. That's all I did. They send me to draw, I go draw the patient, I come back and give the blood to the person who processes the blood, and then the techs who test the blood. So now that I work at another location, it's a smaller hospital. That means there's less employees that work there, and so I might be the one, you know, to spin the blood, and then I'm going to be the one to input the information into the computer and stuff like that, but I do not test the blood. That's a medical technologist's job, or a medical laboratory technician. Next, what is my title? So technically I'm a phlebotomist. I draw blood, but they're also known as lab assistants. My title is a lab assistant 1. I was certified with NHA, but the hospital that I work for doesn't recognize that, and it expired anyway, so it's like whatevs. They recognize ASCP, so I'm trying to get certified with them. If you get certified, you do get paid more. Not much, but it's something. So yeah, like I said, pay isn't that great, but it's not something I see myself doing forever either. It's more like a stepping stone, I would say. It's like a stepping stone I've had for like 2.5 years, but working hours. So like I said, I started out as a float, which means that I go to different locations on the island. The reason why I started off as a float was because I really wanted to get into this company. I've been applying for a position for, I want to say 2 years, because I took a class, or I took the phlebotomy training course in 2014. Yeah, I took it towards the end of 2014, and I've been trying, I was in college then, I've been trying to get a job for 2 years, and I finally got one in June 2016. So that's how long it took me to get a job. And it wasn't because, okay, it's hard to get into because they want a flexible schedule. Because I was in school, that was kind of hard. A lot of employers didn't, I'd be like, okay, my availability is Monday, Wednesday, Friday from this time to this time, and then I'd say Tuesday, Thursday, I'm available from this time to this time. And then a lot of the other people that were in the group interview with me were like, I'm available every day except for Sunday. So it's like, who would you rather hire? You know what I mean? So that's that. So like I said, when I was afloat, I would go to different locations. They do have your region. Like me, I was hired for Queens. Okay, so they had, for float positions, they had different regions, but I would actually float to labs outside of my region just because I was more flexible in that way. I was already done with college and I had nothing else. I just had that, and then I had a part-time retail job, so I was pretty available. My schedule was really flexible then. Being afloat does require you to have a driver's license because you do have to drive yourself to these locations. And a lot of the times the locations I went to were really far, and traffic is pretty bad here in Hawaii. So I'm from the west side. I would drive all the way to the east side and it would take me 2 hours, and that's like super long because if you're afloat, labs, the earliest labs open I think is 4 a.m. and the latest they close is 5 o'clock. So when you are scheduled to close a lab, you do have to stay an extra 30 minutes to clean up, send the last batch of specimens. So, I've had to work really long shifts because of that, because I had to cover for, let's say, 2 locations in one day. So let's say I open at one location and then I drive to another location and then close. So I've had, I want to say I've had a couple of 12-hour or more shifts, but it's rare. That's like overtime already if you get more than 40 hours a week, because I am only supposed to be working 40 hours a week that I'm a full-time. When I transferred to the hospital, I worked day shift, and while I was working in day shift, my schedule was typically 6 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon. And then I transferred to another hospital, which is a hospital I'm working at now. My shift is now evening shift, which is typically from 13:30 to 2200. So I only work 8-hour shifts now because my schedule is more set than it was when I was afloat. And I work, I want to say, less hours because I rarely ever do overtime now that I work at the hospital. But when I was afloat, I did a lot of overtime. And the thing about being afloat too, they give you an incentive, which is like every month you get a certain amount, like an additional, let's say $100 or $150 towards your paycheck, and that's just an incentive for driving around. They also help pay for your mileage, and if you work at a location where you have to pay for parking, sometimes they cover that too, but they don't cover the cost of your mileage from home to a location. They only cover the mileage from location A to location B. So that's what sucks, because if I live all the way on the west side and they make me drive all the way to the east side, they're not going to pay for that. They're only going to pay from location A to location B, but not from the lab to home or home to lab. So that's the downside. So workplace, like I said, I work at a hospital now, but I have worked at outpatient laboratories before. If you become a phlebotomist, you also have the option of working at like a doctor's office. Sometimes they have one person stationed at a doctor's office to just draw blood, because some MAs don't do that. Some doctors' offices have medical assistants that do draw blood, but then some, they just have one person that specifically draws blood. And then there are also rovers who go rove and go to different doctors' offices to draw blood. But what did I do for school, or what did I take to become a phlebotomist? Becoming a phlebotomist it's basically a certification. You don't have to go to college for it. I took a training course at this location, and it was a 6-week course. It was 3 times a week, and each session was 3 hours. So I dedicated 9 hours every week for 6 weeks, which is really short, so it's pretty intense. The course is basically it's like a classroom. So in the beginning of class, you do the lecture. Towards the end of class, you practice your phlebotomy. In the first few weeks, we practice on mannequins because who's gonna trust you to draw a real person? You're still new. Towards the end, we started practicing on each other. So I'd go home with like 6 bruises on each arm because it was really scary at first, because it's like that's nuts. You're poking each other with real needles. But I got used to it. Actually, I've never been afraid of needles. It's just afraid that they'll, hit something important. But anyway, that's what the training was like. Not training, that's what the course was like. Interview process. Like I said, I started out as a float. So I applied for this company online, and then I got a call. I got a first interview, which was at their main laboratory location. So when you get through to that, it's basically you're getting an interview with HR. If HR likes you, they'll put you through, and then you'll have a second interview with your potential employer, or your potential employer. So I interviewed with the seniors at the outpatient lab, and then if they like you, then they'll put you through, or they'll hire you. And then training was like 3 months, because they have to teach you everything. They have to teach you all you need to know about what color tubes certain tests are. They have to teach you about the computer, how to work everything, how to work the machines, sending what specimen to where. There's just a whole lot. If you guys have questions about that stuff, leave them in the comments below, because there's just so much information that I'm just gonna go off track. But so yeah, 3 months of that. And then you also practice your phlebotomy. So you have a trainer who's going to supervise you or shadow you, or make sure that you're not murdering your patient. When I transferred to the hospital, it was expected that I already know how to draw blood, because I do. So they only teach you about what's different at the hospital, which is basically, so you don't even need to know how to spin the specimen or all that stuff anymore, because your only job is to draw blood. They just teach you where to drop off the blood in the lab. They teach you how to do codes, like code blue, stroke, trauma, STEMI, stuff like that. And then they teach you where different locations are in the hospital. And the first hospital that I worked for, we also did newborns. So in the morning, we'd, poke their feet, and then we'd draw them for the newborn screen and bilirubin and CBC and stuff like that. And then we'd also do mothers, because there was a labor and delivery. And they teach you how to draw blood in the emergency, or just stuff like that. So that was 2 weeks. Then when I transferred to the hospital that I work now, I didn't need to, we don't do newborns anymore, because we don't have, there's no labor and delivery, so there's no newborns. But we still do need to know how to draw blood from pediatric patients, because we have an after-hour clinic for pediatric patients and for adult. Now that it's for adults too now. But so that one was 3 months of training, just because now that I transferred to this hospital that I work for now, we need to know how to process specimen and stuff like that. So that's a whole lot of training. Now I have to answer phones, dispatch people to go draw blood. We do add-ons and cancellations. So, if doctor initially put in an order for a patient, but then they want to cancel it. What was it like? For me, honestly, it was nerve-wracking. The first real patient that I had to draw, I was so nervous. I had no idea I had no idea. I was just so scared. I was hoping for easy patients, veins popping out. You do have your fair share of really hard sticks. There are people who are really, really difficult to draw blood from. I've had patients yell at me. I've had patients' families yell at me. I've gotten hit on the head by a patient. I've had times where I've wanted to cry in the lab, because it was just so stressful and overwhelming. But that's with everything. I feel like that's how you learn, is from your mistakes, because I've had so many mistakes in the past, and look at me, I'm still here. What tips do you have for people who are looking into phlebotomy? I want to say number one is be confident in your skills. I feel like that's really important because I noticed when I'm really confident in like let's say I have a patient and they're known to be a hard stick. If I'm confident, I'm gonna be able to get the blood. If for 1 second I doubt myself, I'm gonna miss. I've noticed that about myself. Yeah, just be confident in your skills, because there are times I've had patients like let's say they have you can feel a really good one in their AC, and then you see like a little poke from a previous draw somewhere else, or off to the side, or just somewhere you don't feel anything there. Just go with your gut. Go with where you feel, where you know the vein is gonna be, because I've had times where I doubted my own judgment and I just poked where I saw the previous hole, or previous, where you know how it leaves a little dot. I poked patients where they've had their blood drawn and I didn't get it, and it's because I doubted myself and decided to follow what the person before me did. So no, don't do that. When patients tell you where to go, and if you don't feel anything there, or if you don't think the vein is there, if you think you're not gonna get it there, don't listen to the patient. Sometimes they don't even know what they're talking about. No offense. If you trust yourself, you'll be more successful in drawing blood. That's number one. Be confident in your skills. Know that you can do it, and don't doubt yourself. And then another tip I have is treat patients as if they were your family, because then you'd be more conscious of what you're doing and making sure that you're doing what you're doing right. You would never want somebody incompetent to be working on your family or to be caring for your family, right? Number three, a third tip that I have for you guys is be patient. A lot of the times these people are super scared of needles. Either they're scared of needles, or they're scared of blood, or they're scared of being there. They're just scared of being in the hospital. You just have to be understanding, and you have to be patient with them. If they're giving you a hard time, understand that they're just scared and it's nothing against you. You know what I mean? And understand that you're there to help them and to make them feel better. You're not the bad guy. A lot of people see you as a bad guy because you're the one with the needle, but really you're helping them get their results to their doctors so that their doctors can help treat them better. So with that said, whoever wants to go into phlebotomy, I wish you guys luck. You guys can do it. It's not that hard, honestly. Yeah, if you guys have any more questions about phlebotomy, or if you guys have any questions at all, just leave them in the comments below. I know this video is really long, but there's just so much information that I feel like I can sit here all day, but I won't. So if you guys have any questions, just leave them down below. I'll do my best to answer them, and if there's just way too many questions or none at all, then I'll just make a second video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you guys even a little, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe if you guys want to see more videos answering questions, or if you guys want to see fashion videos, makeup videos, vlogs, singing videos, stuff like that. Just let me know. Hit a girl up. I got time. Okay, bye. We don't